Our testimony is just the beginning. Why didn't the sensational UFO claims in Congress become a sensation? 3 retired military pilots just told Congress under oath about UFOs and some non-human biomaterials, and no one in America was even surprised. An article under this headline appeared in the American business publication Fortune last Thursday, the day after the first-ever official parliamentary hearings entirely devoted to UFOs, during which several completely sensational statements were made. For example, honored veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces David Favor, a former commander of the elite military aviation unit Black Aces, told congressmen how he scared away a flying saucer in California in 2004. By that time, he said, a white and oval unidentified flying object had been hanging over the ocean off the southern coast of the state for almost 2 weeks. When the military finally decided to get closer, apparently, their presence was detected, and in a matter of seconds the object went to a point at some unimaginable speed, violating all the laws of physics known to us. However, how he stayed in the air before that was also completely unclear. There were no wings on the aircraft, just as there were no visible engines, no propellers, or any other structural elements that would explain how it managed to compensate for gravity upon returning to the base. Favor first told about what he had seen and gave the all-clear to his subordinates, who, relatively speaking, kept their finger on the torpedo button, after which I wrote a report to my superiors on fresh tracks and began to wait for the official proceedings. Beyond our understanding, but no one from the Pentagon contacted the pilot about this, he assures. Not that same year, not the next, not until his resignation. That's why America, and the world along with it, heard the story of the incident only now, almost 2 decades later. Do you think that these types of facilities pose a threat to our national security? The moderator of the meeting, Tim Burchett, asked the witness at the end of the story. Judging by the silence that hung for a couple of seconds, the veteran did not have a ready answer. Yes, he finally said, and I'll tell you why. The technologies we have seen in action are disproportionately superior to our military capabilities. If someone had or has the opportunity to gain access to this technology, understand the principle of its operation and reproduce it on Earth, then we will not be able to oppose anything to it. Absolutely nothing, and you don't know anything about such objects, Burchett clarified. For anyone in this world, to have access to anything like that? No, he didn't think for a second. Moreover, I'm convinced that these technologies are beyond our understanding of matter and the laws of nature, voice of reason. And yet, despite all of the above, states the author of the Fortune article, America is not at all surprised. And not only because the Pentagon's secret alien affairs program is not a new concept, to put it mildly, and has been living in the public consciousness for decades. As reported at Thursday's hearing from 2004 to 2021, authorities received information about almost 1,500 cases of UFO sightings. In 18 episodes, an object with no visible engines or wings moved through the air at a very significant speed. At the same time, no unexplained or suspicious debris was found, just as there were no reports of crashes of similar vehicles or those shot down by Army units. So, where is any physical evidence? I'm convinced that our testimony is just the beginning. A third witness, also a military pilot, Mark Graves, said at the hearing, and that there will be much more evidence of UFO encounters once it becomes safe to report them. I myself cannot call myself a supporter of UFO theories, Favor also assured congressmen, answering the question of what he thinks about what he saw in 2000 for now, almost 20 years later. But I'll tell you this, what we and the other members of the group observed with 4 pairs of eyes for 5 minutes. In terms of technology, we still don't have anything even close to that at our disposal. What is your evidence? As a scientist, I am used to being a skeptic and thinking critically about what is happening. I know that most reports of allegedly sighted UFOs have more plausible natural explanations, writes American astronomer and science popularizer Chris Impey on this matter. The more information we have, the more complete it is, the better. continues Professor MP. But the gold standard in science is physical evidence. Now, if Grash's statements about the NAF crash sites are confirmed in the future, then the past hearings could indeed have very, very serious consequences. Brian Cox, a professor at the School of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Manchester, spoke in the same spirit. According to him, in recent days he has often been asked what he thinks about the sensational statements of the American military in Congress. I watched several alleged UFO videos and saw some people who believe in something, making sensational claims but not backing them up with equally sensational evidence, he wrote. Professor Cox is referring to the famous quote by American astronomer Carl Sagan that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So I have nothing more to say, except, perhaps, one thing. It will be wonderful if these statements turn out to be true, Brian Cox continued. This will mean that our civilization is not the only way the universe makes sense of itself, and then we can breathe a little easier. Unfortunately, today we cannot afford this yet, the professor sums up. So I'd rather focus on how we can avoid destroying our own world, rather than on finding those who can fly to us from somewhere to save us from ourselves. So, what's next? As a result of the meeting, congressmen decided that there were no sufficient grounds to recognize UFOs or, as they are now called, unidentified atmospheric phenomenon, NAF, as objects of extraterrestrial origin, at least not yet. But there are no plans to close the committee, so for now it will continue to work. However, it does not at all follow from this that in any foreseeable future, we will be solemnly announced about contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations, or shown secret Pentagon bases where spaceships of aliens are carefully stored.